Hello and welcome to Cretaceous Cantina, where today we're having a look at the Mattel Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Primal Attack Epic Roarin Tyrannosaurus Rex. I am super stoked about this because T-Rexes are my jam, and this is a new Mattel Jurassic T-Rex. And I have reviewed every single Mattel Jurassic World T-Rex up to this point, and I'm excited to take a look at this one. Oh man, this looks so cool. Packaging, as you can see, has been completely redone for Camp Cretaceous, which is the new Netflix series that is coming up. But it does note that up top, a Netflix original series. You can see some of the kids that are supposed to be in the show, along with Toro, the Carnotaurus, who I guess is one of the villains of the series. And then some instructions down there: chomp, thrash, epic roar, all the fun stuff. I really do like the aesthetic. I think Mattel has gotten better over time with their packaging aesthetics. This looks really nice. I really like the redwoods there in the background. Reminds me a bit of the T-Rex paddock we see in Jurassic World. And it looks like there's a structure or something integrated into the trees. There's a little dock back there. Really interesting stuff. You can see the T-Rex roaring. Try me, press the button. Try it before you buy it. And did I mention how awesome that T-Rex looks? At the back, we can see the toy in action. That's what an epic roar looks like if you've ever wondered. Again, chomp, thrash, get the Jurassic World Facts app. And it says we also get some bonuses included. I don't know if that's a card or a map or what, but we'll find out. You can also see Toro, who's available as well. I really do think this logo is pretty cool. I like how the colors are kind of a little bit of a throwback like to Jurassic Park. Not much to see on bottom. It looks kind of like all of these toys do. There is the UPC just in case you need it. I got mine from Target.com for $39.99, and I've since seen them at my local Target store, so they are making their way out to retail. All right, I'm gonna take a moment, get this lady out of the box. When we come back, we'll take a closer look at the epic Roarin Tyrannosaurus Rex. All right, so here's the beast out of the packaging. I really like what I'm seeing. From the very beginning, one of the things Mattel has done really well is the sculpt work on their T-Rexes. Going back to 2018, the Extreme Chompin' T-Rex, the Thrash and Throw, the Super Colossal, all of those were fantastic. But it seems like each time they've released a subsequent T-Rex, they've gotten better with them. And this really is no exception. What I am seeing here in terms of the sculpting, in terms of the detailing, it looks really good. It's certainly an improvement over its predecessors. And of course, that's what we want to see. I know a lot of people have taken issue with how many Rexes are in this Mattel Jurassic World line, because there's quite a few, and that is true. But I think the thing we need to look at is whether or not they actually get better, whether or not they become more innovative, more fun, more engaging. In terms of the aesthetics, I think that they've succeeded in that capacity. There's really a lot to see here. Lots of sculpt work, all the striations, the pebbling, all the creases in the skin. It's all been brought together so well here. I mean, let's just take a close-up look here at the head. And I mean, you can really see how far they've come with the level of sculpted detail. I mean, it's pretty incredible. And, you know, we will do a comparison in a little bit with previous releases, but I think, you know, just by looking at this Rex, it's pretty obvious that the other ones weren't quite this detailed. I mean, it just looks remarkably good. I mean, they've always nailed like the head sculpt for the Rex, but in this case, I feel like they've gone above and beyond. They added a whole other dimension of sculpted detail, and you can see that on the entirety of the head, on the top of the skull, here at the front of the snout, on the lower jaw as well. Look at the scars. They're really cut deep into the Rex's, the side of her face there. And I mean, even just looking here, like you can see that there's a lot of nice sculpted detail that has been done with this Rex. I mean, it's really highly, three-dimensional. It just really stands out. Just that whole level of sculpting work that went into this. I really got to hand it to them. More scars on this side of her face. And yeah, I mean, it all really stands out. I mean, there's a lot to see in here. Lots of nice sculpt work going down the tail. Another thing I want to mention about this T-Rex is that she's very proportionate, and that has been an issue before on some of these Rexes. Obviously, the Super Colossal, the head was really big. She looked a little bit skinny. The Extreme Chompin' T-Rex, a little bit too skinny. Feet were big. Thrash and Throw T-Rex had a huge head on it, and Bite and Fight had a really weird looking neck. I think this is the first time that they've really dialed in the proportions of the animal. The head may be a little bit oversized, but it's not as bad as on those previous dinosaurs. It looks a lot closer to what we see in Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Her torso is more beefed out. She doesn't look underweight. She doesn't look undersized. Proportionally, it just works. The flow is really good. I really like the flow. The tail seems to be a good length. Might be a little bit narrow in this area here, but that's kind of to be expected because of the action feature. The feet look to be appropriately sized, and the arms aren't too big or anything. They look great. One thing that's really cool here is that for the first time, they actually sculpted the teeth separately and then attached them into the figure. And that really helps because you're not going to end up with a T-Rex that has blotchily painted teeth or, anything like that. These are all going to look really good because the teeth are sculpted separately and then attached to the dinosaur. So, just look how awesome they look. The sculpting on the teeth also, this is the best they've ever looked. They don't look too blunt. They look a little pointier than they usually do on these Rexes. And I just got to hand it to Mattel for doing that. They're like an off-white color too, so a little bit ivory looking. So that is super, super awesome. I hope they do this on all of their dinosaurs. I'd love to see that. So the other cool thing is that we have this real fill or, like rubbery tongue here that you get. So kind of like the classic Jurassic Park dinosaurs, although they didn't really have tongues that were rubbery. It was more the outside of the bodies, the skin. But this is really cool, just like how rubbery that is. And it's also on a joint. So you can orient it upwards like that. You can put it down at the bottom. You can have it more in the middle and it kind of stays. So that's fun. Well, there it flops down. That is fun. So one of them I saw in the stores had a much stiffer joint, it was more rigid. You could keep the tongue propped up or propped down better. But that is really neat. That's different. And, like I said, we want to see these Rexes get better. We want to see them evolve and, get better and better. And I think so far, so good. Let's talk about the eyes. Nice yellow gold color. They're a little bit darker, I think, than they usually are. You'll also notice that the pupils are kind of looking a little bit more straight ahead. So it kind of has a little bit more of that binocular vision effect. And I do appreciate that. That looks really cool. Right there, it totally looks like the Jurassic World T-Rex. Yeah, it's awesome. In terms of paint, so this time we have an all-new paint scheme. It's kind of a happy medium between the Thrash and Throw T-Rex and the Bite and Fight T-Rex. So again, we'll compare them, but the Thrash and Throw was a much lighter brown palette. You guys remember the really light colored lower jaw. And then the Thrash and Throw had a much more dark color scheme throughout. Still had the lighter colored jaw, but it had a much darker color scheme. This is more in the medium range of brown colors. And I think it fits Jurassic Park more closely than those other ones. I feel like the Bite and Fight was more like Jurassic World. This feels more like Jurassic Park in terms of the color palette. Now, as I've said before, in Jurassic Park, Rexy looks different scene to scene because sometimes she's CG, sometimes she's the animatronic, sometimes it's night, sometimes it's day. All kinds of variables. And same for Jurassic World to a lesser extent. I think they really nailed it. I think they really nailed the color scheme. It's not 100% to Jurassic Park. It's a lot better. It's a lot closer than they've ever gone before. And the thing that I really appreciate this time around is that we don't have this really light colored lower jaw. It looks a lot more uniform from snout to tail. And we still have those nice gradients here and there. The tip of the snout's a little bit darker. A little bit of darker coloring around the eyes. And down the back, she's actually a lot darker. She's got like those browny caramel colors along her back. And there are some stripes here. You can kind of see them. They're very faint. This does remind me a good bit of the Bite and Fight in terms of those colors and the way that they applied, that paint. I think it's a little harsh personally. I think they could have dialed it back a little bit, made it a little bit more in line with maybe like this color right here. This kind of, it's darker than what you have on the sides, but like this other brown that's like not too dark. I feel like that's just a little bit too dark. And it's not really well blended, particularly here at the tail. Like you're not going to see a whole lot of blending right there. It just kind of stops very abruptly. So that would be really the only thing I could complain about with the paint. It still wouldn't be 100% film accurate, but like I said, they're getting closer. Here at the bottom, you can see that she is a little bit lighter in color. She's got more of like a lighter yellowy color there on her chest, on her tummy. You can see the battery box right there, speaker hole right there, Jurassic World Facts app if you need to get that. And then, yeah, I mean, other than that, I think the paint looks really good. But she's looking really good. They didn't paint her claws there at the front limbs. They never do. And then they didn't get the dew claws there at the back, which they don't ever do that either, unfortunately. I mean, other than that, I think this is an improvement. And just in terms of aesthetics, I think this is an improvement over the previous Rexes. So now let's talk about, how fun this thing actually is when we tie in the aesthetics with the action feature. So we have an all new action feature this time around. The first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to demonstrate what happens when you press that little button you see there on the tail. So check this out. This is the epic roar. The whole review table is shaking. That's fun. It's a little comical. It's a little silly, but if you just press it really quick, she'll just close her mouth. But if you hold it, that's when you get the shaking and the rattling. It's very silly, but it's actually kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like just going back here and pressing that. The other thing we can do, and we first saw this with the Grab and Growl Indoraptor a couple years ago, is that you have this sort of animatronic sort of action. So the way that works is you're gonna grab the tail, and you can rotate the head. You can make her look down, make her look up. You can go side to side with it. So I do like that. If you want to incorporate the biting feature, you could do that too. So I like that. I like how you can kind of puppeteer her, kind of make her look around. That's great. That's fun. Like I said, innovation, make these toys better and better. And I think they've accomplished that here. I really like doing that. As far as T-Rexes go, I'm really happy with this. I wasn't a huge fan of the Thrash and Throw. I like the Bite and Fight for its aesthetics, but the playability of it isn't the best. I feel like this is a perfect harmony of aesthetics, playability, and giving us a really good movie representation of T-Rex from the Jurassic series. In terms of articulation, there's not a ton of it. If you have any of the other Rexes, you pretty much know what to expect here. So you can rotate these arms. I can't really get them to go out. I know that on some of the other Rexes, they kind of hinge out a little bit. It seems like there is a hinge there, but they don't really want to come out. So it's more film accurate for them to just kind of be there anyway like that. So that's okay. Both of the hips, you can pose them so they are in ratcheted joints, and the ankles can be swiveled as well so that you can pose her. As far as the other articulation, well, there's the tongue. I noted that already. But the rest of what you have up here is all integrated into the action feature. Same with the tail. That's all part of the action feature. So technically it is articulation, but it's not really usable unless you are using the action features of the dinosaur. All right, so here we have the Thrash and Throw T-Rex facing off with the epic Roarin T-Rex. They're the same size. Scale is going to be the same on both of them. But you can quickly see how different they are in terms of the paint schemes. I have a lot of problems with my Thrash and Throw. The action feature doesn't always work. I feel like I have to be really rough with it in order to get it to roar properly, and it doesn't balance as well as it should. I'm not having any of those issues with the epic Roarin T-Rex. You can also see that the head is quite a bit bigger on the Thrash and Throw, and how skinnier that version of the Rex looks compared to the new version. You can also see how the sculpted detail is more minimized on the original release. You do have some of that sculpting here on the lower jaw, but it's not quite as visible as what you have on the new Rex. And I also want to note how you have this little bit of skin that comes down here on the upper jaw. You see how it's like really pointy? If you look at the new Rex, it's a lot more rounded right there in that spot. So that's a lot more film accurate, and I do appreciate them improving that. Here is the Bite and Fight T-Rex along with the Epic Roarin T-Rex. Of course, the Bite and Fight has this default wide open jaw configuration, which is a little bit silly. I definitely don't prefer that. And you can also see how she's a lot darker overall compared to the Epic Roarin. So she does have some of the darker browns along her back. And overall, she's just a lot more chocolatey looking. And of course, the sculpted detail isn't, it's more closer to the thrash and throw overall. The sculpting isn't quite what we see with the Epic Roarin. I do like the Bite and Fight quite a bit, but one of the things that I noted earlier is that the neck looks really weird. It's too skinny and you have all these joints because of the action feature. I mean, yeah, and then the tail, has that dual attack action. So you have this weird looking joint right there and then, this over here. So that is one area where the Epic Roarin is, definitely surpasses this version here. Not to mention, once again, the open mouth like this. So you closed it, definitely looks better. But it still also has that little pointy bit. Well, it stayed closed. That little pointy bit right there for the upper cheek area. Which again is more rounded right in here on the Epic Roarins. I think the eyes also a little brighter here. They look a little bit better on the new version. And then finally, here's the Epic Roarin T-Rex alongside with one of our Jurassic World action figures. Here's Dr. Grant. You can see that he scales with the Rex really, really nicely. And as far as our little bonus that we have here, it's a little Camp Cretaceous, kind of like a booklet or fun pack. So you open it up, we have a little pack of stickers or, a few stickers right there. Pretty neat, different dinosaurs, Stegosaurus, Raptor Blue, Bumpy the Ankylosaur, T-Rex, and Tora the Carnotaurus. So I guess these are all designs from the show, or maybe, they kind of look like from the films, sort of, but I don't know, these two look kind of animated. And then we also have a little maze sort of thing. So, you just follow the paths to get into the park or to get out of the park. And you would put your stickers right here. And the back kind of shows you, I guess, the answers, or, that's the path you would need to take to get away from all these dinosaurs and escape Jurassic World. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so there you have it. This is the Mattel Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous Primal Attack Epic Roarin Tyrannosaurus Rex. Overall, you guys, this thing is fantastic. It really, really is. They've released so many T-Rexes at this point that we might not get all that excited for them. I do personally, but I see a lot of people saying, oh, it's another T-Rex. Yes, it is another T-Rex, but if they continue to further develop them, to make them look better, to make them sound better, to make them perform better in terms of their action features and overall playability, then I'm all for it. Is this perfect? No, of course not, but it is a net improvement over the previous Rexes that have been released in Mattel's Jurassic World toy line. The thing I like most about this T-Rex is the way that it looks. It has a fantastic sculpt. I would love to see them go back to the drawing board, redo the super colossal T-Rex with this sculpt, and maybe even this paint job, if not a more movie accurate paint job. I think that would be pretty definitive. I'd still also love to see a T-Rex in this scale, the 3 3/4 inch, 4-inch scale, but also do away with the action features, make it super articulated. That would be like the dream T-Rex with an even more film accurate paint application. But until they do that, this is the Rex to beat. This is clearly the overall supreme ruler in the battle of the Rexes, as we like to call it here at Victoria's Cantina and on the Collect Jurassic World podcast. So if you're on the fence, I definitely recommend it. It's an upgrade. So if you already have those other Rexes, maybe it's a good time to, part with them and welcome this Rex to the collection. It is the definitive version we have at this point. I hope they continue to evolve and get better. But for right now, I don't think you can do better at this scale in terms of Mattel Jurassic World T-Rexes than the Epic Roarin T-Rex. I love it, and I'm really stoked to have it in my collection. All right, my friends, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below. Have you picked up the Epic Roarin T-Rex? Will you be adding it to your collection? What do you think? Sound off Dan in the comments. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And if you haven't downloaded it yet, the Collect Jurassic World podcast is back. We just published our first episode of season 2 this week. Be sure to check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Victoria's Cantina. Until next time, bye-bye.